Today, I will be designing, scratch building, and painting a librarian and her library, which both reside in my retro sci-fi universe. Wherever Joyce Ishikawa was, there were words. Walking through the fields of wiry wheat, feeling the lashes of their dull needleheads against her skin, even then, in the heat and the bitter sunlight, she would conjure up words. She recited them silently as she followed her father over the hill, their arms straining with baskets of grain, looking towards home far below. She counted each step as she repeated words like luminous and kerfuffle, verisimilitude and truncated. There was only one book in the house on account of how many supplementary materials could be shipped to the new colony. Books, her father said with regret, had mostly been deemed a lot of dead weight. The educational departments had fought for more, but every step forward was 2 steps back. Lightweight cassettes, those were the way of the future. Those could be shipped 200, 300, 500 to a box for a fraction of the space. In school, Joyce slumbered over her desk, dulled into sleep by the dim voices of the tapes. At home, she smelled the thin leaves of the dictionary and inhaled new words. At night, when the lamps were turned off, beneath the snores and rustling slumber of her family, she mouthed her newest favorite, pleonastic. Despite her willingness to learn, school was a never-ending maze of disappointment. Another year, another aptitude test coming back with confused results and no clear path forward. Her lineage was the only thing tethering her to the hope of receiving a good assignment as an adult. Her mother and father had both been acclaimed agriculturalists, handpicked for the colony. They had engineered new species of grains and plants that would thrive here. Meanwhile, Joyce wouldn't be able to identify poison ivy if it were in a salad bowl in front of her. At graduation, she was assigned to the colony's switchboard department, routing calls and messages from one line to another. She felt the full weight of the word drudgery. It was New Year's Day when Joyce got the call from Miss Emery Mills. Her home computer was on the fritz, and there was no way to turn in her monthly duty report. Could someone possibly come down and help? The office was mostly empty, and the people that were there were greenish and gluey-eyed from partying the night before. No one would miss her. Joyce slipped out onto the street. Miss Emery Mills was much older than Joyce, probably her mother's age, but she swung open the door and hustled Joyce inside with the energy of a little girl. Her government-issued uniform was decorated at the lapels with fine, even stitches of embroidery floss. What Joyce noticed first, though, was the smell of the house. Fine spices, decayed pulpwood, and ink. The main room was lined with books. They overflowed onto the couch, the desk, the end tables, the breakfast nook. Books were stacked, piled, arranged in neat rows on shelves, and splayed open like butterfly wings. The colors ebbed and converged and rose in waves, greens to reds to blues and yellows, then shifting back again. There were so many words here, more than Joyce had ever seen. How, she asked, did you get these? Miss Mills took her on a tour of the room and pointed out each book's origin. These had been bought off a retired schoolteacher who had brought a few books in her luggage from Earth. A dozen had been picked out of abandoned homes when colonists had died or moved to another assignment. Some were gifts from colleagues and friends. And a few were printed and bound right here using her word processing machine. Now there were probably 200 books in all, with more in the basement. Her eyes were growing weak now, so that was likely to stop soon. She had nothing against the cassette tapes, but there was something special about holding words in her own hands. What do you do, exactly? Joyce asked. Miss Mills said that she had been part of the initial recruitment program back on Earth. Now she reviewed technical schematics, shipped to her by the university, and reviewed at her leisure. Joyce picked up a book and turned it over in her hands, and all at once she knew where she belonged. The days grew stiflingly hot in the springtime, and Joyce would work into the early morning hours punching heavy keys and routing calls. She would go home, shower, and try to sleep for an hour or two. Then she would sit with Miss Emery Mills, and they would drink coffee and read and write. Words were no longer singular things, isolated shells washed up on the shore, but a great chain linked together. Joyce thought of the pitter-patter of poetry and the words bouncing off of each other, and the way a word could mean two things at once, or how it could lie and mean nothing at all. At the beginning of each month, Miss Mills would hand her a new cassette tape, a ream of paper, and show her to the word processing machine. By the end of the month, there was fresh ink drying on the pages and a new book ready to be shelved. The idea of a life lived around books and words had once seemed so immensely impossible to her, and yet before Joyce knew it, she and Miss Mills had been working on this project together for 10 years. Sometimes there were guests who came to read or just sit and talk. They all referred to this place as the library. Here, though, no one could take a book. It was too risky to lose one after so much work. There was the sense between them all, Joyce, Miss Mills, and the readers, that this was more than a hobby or a way to pass the time. It was giving them the words they needed to go on. One day, Miss Emery Mills was gone. Joyce couldn't really believe it was true until she sat in the room and felt the emptiness of the space. The sunlight streamed in, and Joyce sat in her friend's favorite chair by the window. The books looked empty, as if she might turn them all inside out and the words would pour out like sand. There was no funeral with flowers and well-wishers. There was no family at all, just Joyce in a room full of words. She sat back in the chair and shut her eyes, and when she opened them, she saw the envelope on the end table and a single silver keycard resting on top. The building had been a lecture hall at first, and then a storage area for cataloging records. Now that department was being downsized, and in response to a request from the late Professor Emeritus Emery Mills, it was now open for a new sort of project with a new director. Joyce stopped by every day and watched as the shelves went up, the tiled floors were polished, and the new reference computer was installed. The books had to be brought over in several trips, and she was there to sort and shelve them all. It was a risk to make such a bold change, since the space could easily be reassigned one day or deemed unnecessary. But for now, there was a library, and it was hers. For now turned into a month, a year, a decade, and more. In the years after the Great Silence, when the colony lost contact with Earth and the carefully constructed society began to fall apart, Joyce was on her own maintaining the library. She watered the plants and dusted the shelves and repaired the word processing machine with spare parts. Younger readers would arrive, eager to hear what it was like on the distant world their parents had once called home. And so they would read A Tree Grows in Brooklyn and Walden, Dandelion Wine and the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And gradually, the shape of that world became real. There were always words being added to Joyce's vocabulary, and there'd always be the old ones she could still remember, the ones from 30 years before, when she would rest her head on her pillow and watch the lantern light flicker out, and she would say, soft as a moth's wings, sonder, sonorous, syzygy. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure that you like and subscribe to see more builds like this.